Hey, it's your girl Vanette. It's another episode of Sister Self Care Sunday. And you know what? My girl is not with me today. Yes, she had other plans for today. She couldn't be here with us, but Denise did send all her love and support, you guys. Normally she is here for Sister Self Care Sunday. So, what are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about how to combat overwhelm when you're feeling overwhelmed, right? So I don't know about you, but I've had times in my life when I just felt a sense of drowning, like it was just too much. You know, um, let's just get into it. Um, how do you feel when you're overwhelmed? How do you know when you're overwhelmed? So let me give you a few signs and symptoms of what overwhelm can look like. Overwhelm can look like maybe you're very tired, you're exhausted all the time. Overwhelm can be a loss of interest in some things. Overwhelm can be um, fearfulness, a sense of like you're drowning, literally feeling like you're drowning. So we want you to like pay attention to when you're starting to feel these things, right? Maybe you're a person that's super busy all the time. You've got a ton of things going on at a time. And it's like, you're like, okay, I don't have time to really deal with how I'm feeling about this one situation because I have to move on to another situation. And so you're suppressing how you're feeling, you're suppressing some of that stress, and you're packing other things on top of that. And at some point, your plate is going to get too full and it's going to overflow. And that overflow is your overwhelm. So we want to be really careful. I really want our ladies out there and the gents to be mindful of what all do you have going on in your life. Be cognizant of when you're feeling like this is too much for me to handle. And let's get into it. How do you really handle the being overwhelmed? You know, some other things that can be signs of being overwhelmed is irritation. If you're easily irritated, that could be a sign that you're overwhelmed. If you're easily irritated, like things that normally wouldn't bother you now is like on your last nerve, right? It's a sign that you're overwhelmed. Next, what are some other things? I think we talked about fatigue. What about procrastination? If you're putting things off, you keep putting things off, could be because you're simply overwhelmed. And so, um, what I want to know from anybody that's watching this live or going to watch this in replay, tell me, you know, what are some signs that you experience when you're overwhelmed? Put that in the comment because we really want to be able to share some of the signs to be on the lookout for so that, you can address that feeling of being overwhelmed. Moving on, we talked about the signs, right? We talked about a couple of those signs of being overwhelmed. But now let's talk about how can we overcome being overwhelmed, right? So some things that we can do to overcome being overwhelmed is to begin to prioritize, right? Make a list of everything that you have to do that's on your plate. And when you make your list, you want to base it, start categorizing it by what's important, right? So make a list of everything first, then go through that list. When you go through that list, what you want to then do is to organize the list now by importance. Put the things that are really important at the top. Maybe there are things that only you can do. Put those at the top, right? Maybe there's things that, other people can help you. Things that are time sensitive, right? Put that at the top. You want your most urgent things that you know you have to get done because something terrible could happen if you don't. Put those things at the top. There may be some things you may need to do because it would be nice to do, But let's face it, when you're in an overwhelm mode and there's so much on your plate, you have to start prioritizing. And then after you prioritize, you need to also make sure that as you create your list, start scheduling some me time. I mean, it's priority you for a reason, right? Schedule some me time. What does me time look like? It can look like as little as 10 to 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of time where you're not on your phone, you're not scrolling through social media, you're not doing work, you're not, talking to girlfriends, you're not managing things around the house, just 10 to 15 minutes where you can sit in the stillness of your thoughts and just really clear your mind for 10 to 15 minutes every day. You will be surprised at how refreshed you will feel when you're able to do that. So, one so that's one other tip for you. The next thing you can do that will help immensely when you have a sense of overwhelmness is exercise. Go for a good walk. I'm telling you, when you're walking and it helps clear your mind. You're moving, you get your body moving. They say exercise does a body good. It improves your mood. It's a known fact. Like that is fact, you guys. So just make sure, start exercising. Try to get out and go for a walk. If you can't get out and go for a walk, do some exercises in the house. They have apps for everything. YouTube is your next best friend. Just YouTube some very simple exercises that you can do at home to just get your blood pumping, get you going. Make sure you do something that's going to increase your heart rate so you can really get it up, some cardio type of activity, whether it's jumping jacks, maybe you jog in place, some high knees, or maybe you do some crunches. Let's at work. Squats is good. So there are a ton of different types of exercises that you can do, but exercise is so good for combating when you're feeling overwhelmed. I know sometimes when I'm extremely stressed at the end of the week and I go work out, I can tell you I feel so much better after a good workout. I think clearer, I'm more productive. It's like I'm more innovative. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, get your exercise in. Does a body good and a mind good. And then when you're overwhelmed, guess what? There is power in saying no. And no, can't do it. No. And you don't owe anybody any reasons for why you're saying the no. Put in boundaries. When you're overwhelmed already, you have enough on your plate, learn to say no. And if you're a person who is so used to being there for everyone, right now it's time for you to prioritize yourself and to be there for yourself. So please learn the gift of just simply saying no. You can't be everything to everybody when you can't be who you need to be for yourself. Okay? You can't pour from an empty cup. And when you're overwhelmed, your cup is more than full with stuff you need to handle. Next, we talked about making that list, right? But then you want to really get a strategy together when you have a lot of things to do. One of the clients that I worked with recommended that she build out a calendar. After she makes her list, I had her build out a calendar. And then once you look at the calendar, start placing your items on the calendar so you can see where they go. Um, you've already taken that list and we prioritize it. So we know what things have to be done because there's time sensitive. We know what things that only you can do. I mean, there are some things I'm sure some of you, if you're like me, when I used to tell my children to do things when they were small and I knew they wouldn't really do it right, I'd be like, I just do it myself. Nope. There are some things you can delegate to other people. So you want to do that. That will help you to start releasing those feelings of overwhelm, which is so important. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over these tips again. First thing you're going to do is make a list of everything. The next thing you're going to do with that list, you're going to prioritize. You're going to identify what things you can only do, what things somebody else can do. And then after you prioritize, then you're going to look at the schedule and you're going to find days on the calendar in which you can actually get these things done because you can't do everything all the time, every single day. So you have to be mindful about that. The next thing you want to do is always schedule some me time. 10 to 15 minutes a day is not too much time when it comes to releasing a feeling of being overwhelmed. So please take the 10 to 15 minutes a day to break it down and just make sure you are taking care of yourself. The next thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you take a walk, get some physical activity in because physical activity helps immensely, whether it's a brisk walk. Maybe you just walk outside for maybe 15 to 20 minutes. If you have the luxury of a half hour, do a half hour. Lose yourself in the walk. And then instead of walking and thinking about stuff, walk and just be observant. Take a look and see, like, you're walking down your street. Look at the grass, look at the trees, look to see if you see any animals, look at the beautiful sky. Look at the different homes that you're passing by, the flowers, the landscape. Find things that you can look at to get your mind off of everything that's on your plate because it just really helps relieve that stress off of you. Because overwhelm is nothing more than stress, nothing more than stress. And if you don't deal with it, it will deal with you. So let's be proactive and deal with that. Okay. So we talked about exercise, going for a walk. We talked about taking some me time. And we also talked about the power of what? Saying no. Say no. Don't feel guilty about it because when you say no to others, you're saying yes to who? To you. All right. And then last but not least, take a look at some of those larger items that you have. Sometimes we can have a project and we're like, oh my gosh, I cannot possibly do all the things at once. You're right. You have to take it one chunk at a time. So chunk your big obstacles, your big projects down into manageable parts. When you take it and make it more manageable, it reduces the stress that you have. Okay. So take those items that may be big, large, and you're like, oh my gosh, so big that it causes you to procrastinate to even get started to do them, right? Take those, chunk it down into bite-sized pieces so that you can get those tasks accomplished. So now I want to throw out some tips to begin to talk about, well, how do we prevent? So, how can you really prevent being overwhelmed? For some people, it's trying to plan ahead. Mean try to be proactive in your schedule. Um, Pay attention to things that are going on that are time sensitive because sometimes if you're like me, sometimes I can be a procrastinator, and I'll let things pile up, pile up, pile up, and then they become almost unbearable. Then I'm feeling overwhelmed and I feel like, oh, I have to do something. Then I have to revert to bite-sized pieces so I can get it accomplished. So stay on top of it. Create a planner for yourself, especially if you're a person that's got so much going on. Create a planner for yourself that's realistic. And in this plan, make sure you're making time for you. Got to schedule 10 to 15 minutes a day. That's minimum, a day, just for you. In addition to that, you have your planner. The next thing you can do is, again, you're going to want to make sure you're using your prioritization skills. In addition to using your prioritization skills, you're going to make sure that you're also making time for fun, making time to work out, get that physical work going in, because when you're healthy, you feel better, you think better, you're more innovative. So do that. And once you're able to do those things, you'll find that you're able to better combat the feeling of overwhelm. But initially, you have to really address it. So make sure you address it. In addition, we've talked about some of the signs and symptoms that can let you know you're overwhelmed. I'd like to know in the comments if any of you have any special strategies that you use. Let's share because Sister Self Care Sunday is a part of the Priority You brand that we bring together every first and third Sunday because we believe that self care is so critical because self care is really self love. And when you love yourself, you have higher self confidence, a much higher level of self confidence. And when you're confident in yourself, you're able to pursue and achieve the goals that you set for yourself. Okay. So part of that includes paying attention to yourself. Paying attention to yourself means being cognizant of when you're feeling overwhelmed. Check your mood swings. If people say, "Oh, you're so grouchy. Why are you so grouchy?" Start thinking, right? What's all on your plate? What's all going on in your life? Get you a journal. Start writing things down. That's very therapeutic. Help get things off your chest, off your mind. So get into that. That's going to be so key and so helpful for you. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to just take some time. Again, you have your planner, get a schedule together so that not that you have to schedule every minute of the day out, but it is going to depend on how busy you are and what's going on in your life. But when you can be organized, it really does help manage the sense of overwhelm. Delegation. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So when there are things that maybe you don't necessarily have to do yourself, can you hire somebody to do it? Can you ask a friend to help you, a family member? If you have children or a spouse or a support in the home, can you share some of your responsibilities with them so that they can help? Because you don't have to always feel like you have to do it alone. And then lastly, I do recommend a journal, help getting your thoughts out, just writing about how you feel. So one is a planner, so you're planning the things that you need to execute. The journal is so you can get your thoughts out. Like, how are you feeling? Get in touch with your feelings. Pay attention to that because your feelings are going to let you know, if you're feeling good today, okay, that's great. But if you know you're feeling, maybe you've been tired consecutively, exhausted, kind of withdrawn, could be overwhelmed. Maybe you've noticed you're irritated a lot lately, overwhelmed, right? Procrastinating, overwhelmed. So we want you to really stay in touch and really think about those things because oftentimes we're taught, you know, just get over it. We'll have different things on our plate, you know, just get it done, right? That's what we're a lot of us was raised with. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't complain about it, just get it done. But if you only have two hands, right? Your two hands can only do but so much. So, with that said, I really want to encourage all our sisters out there to please, please pay attention to what's on your plate. And when it's time for you to take a break, take a break. It's better, and I encourage you to take a 10 to 15-minute break each day, each and every day. Take a 10 to 15-minute break. Make sure that's a time period where you can just sit in silence, clear your mind, focus on your breath, relax, and release. Because if you don't take a break, you will break. You can only handle but so much stress, right? And we want on Sister Self Care Sunday for every one of our sisters out there to manage what you have on your plate successfully and more importantly, to manage you because you're more important than all the things on your to do list. And if you're not taking care of you, you're not going to be able to take care of the things on your to do list or the loved ones in your life. Now, this is going to bring us close to the end of our Sister Self Care Sunday segment. I didn't have my girl with me today. I am missing her. So, Denise, if you're out there watching this in playback, we missed you. We love you, and we look forward to having you back. Everybody else, listen, we're going to be back here on the third Sunday, which is going to be, let me see what date that is. Okay, that's going to be September 20th, and we're going to be talking about fall skincare. So can you believe it? We're moving into the fall already. So we're going to be talking about fall skincare. Want you all to join us. Denise will be with me, and we're just going to have a really good conversation. In addition, I do want to mention if you have not signed up for the monthly newsletter, you want to do so. Let me share with you some of the articles that we have. This month, we're talking about untapped power of authentic boardroom bonds. So, if you're a woman in the C suite, this is going to tell you how to develop those bonds with your fellow C suite members, okay, with your colleagues. The leadership tip we have is talking about leading with empathy. So we've got a nice tip there for leading with empathy. We had a guest article in it from a young lady named Nicole Cooper. She is the owner of Vintage Glam Makeup Artistry. And her article is about the ritual of makeup, self-care morning routine. So she's giving us a self-care morning routine. And last but not least, well, actually not the last thing in the article, but we have own your space. Listen, I've written a letter to you ladies just as a friendly reminder in this newsletter to own your space. Don't be afraid to use your voice. You're meant to be here. You are enough. So this newsletter is packed with a lot of good stuff, everybody. And also, dare I forget, I'm going to be hosting a Balance Bliss workshop, a 1 hour packed filled with some really good gems to help you get that balance in your life so you can live a blissful life. It's going to be on Saturday, September 16th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So if you're watching this in playback, DM me if you're interested in attending. It's a free workshop. DM me if you want to receive the newsletter. It's got some good stuff every month. I'm dropping gems because that's my mission to empower, elevate, and encourage women on the daily. If you're out there and you need support, you're ready to get more balance in your life, but you're not sure on how to do it, you've tried, you can't do it on your own, reach out to me, DM me directly. Let's jump on a call. I'm here to help. With that said, I'd like to wish everybody a very, very happy Labor Day. I hope you're all out there enjoying the weather and your family members. Excuse my voice. I am having a situation with sinuses, but your girl is still good. I'm gonna make me some tea when I get off the phone, when I get off this live here. But I want to thank you all so very much for joining and for watching. Have a fabulous Sunday. Take care, y'all.